C'est bon? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to this workshop, which is a common workshop between Cisbat and the research project ReCO2st. We are at the end of our project, and we are now presenting the final results. There were some papers presented in the scientific part of the conference, and now we are going to present you more the concrete results. So I will present an introduction for you, how it works. Is there a pointer? Is this one? Like this. Oh, okay. Okay. So this is a program that we have a challenging program, 10 minutes per presentation, but the idea is that we have at the end a lot of time to discuss, and Gérard Greuter is going to co-chair this session with me, and then it will take the hand and we'll follow and we animate the round table. The idea is that on the round table, your needs and are coming to the researchers and also to the technology providers to have an interactive discussion. So ReCO2st, it was a research project that asking money from the European Union, it promised to reduce the cost, the delays and the energy consumption to accelerate the energy transition. Deep refurbishment costs a lot, so European Union wants to find ways, not only technologies, but also ways of doing refurbishment so that we reduce costs. And we know, all of us, today, these 2 days, there was a lot of presentation about performance gap, so we have to also work to get the result right, to plan it right, do it right and get it right. So we are proposing tools. It's very difficult to use this thing. I don't manage to point, so I don't have a pointer, excuse me. Optimize refurbishment scenarios. So we have some software tools to help the engineers to optimize what they propose to the owners as a refurbishment scenario. We tested new technologies, and you will find the ones that we demonstrated on one of the buildings of Retraite Populaire. We are exposing them there, so you can discuss with the inventors, the people. The idea is to have technologies that just before the market, so they are ready to be commercialized. And then new business models, and there Florian is going to have a presentation, and you can discuss with him with new business models. So half of the project, almost, no, 1/3 of the project was under COVID era, COVID time, but we managed to finish it and to get the results we are happy to finish. One of the key questions was to save money, to reduce cost, is where to put the balance between renewables and envelope, because the cost per kilowatt hours of primary energy produced is very different from renewables and from investment on the envelope. And things are moving. There are even towns, whole towns, and this project comes from Denmark because, for example, Copenhagen will be very soon a zero energy town, a zero CO2 town, because they are targeting on renewables, because they have a lot of wind energy and they have water to use heat pumps, so they are targeting in a different point the optimum between renewables and envelope. But when we are coming to refurbishment, the answer is individual for every building, because the cost is different for every building. So we need a costing method which is sufficiently reliable, and energy saving calculation methods which is sufficiently reliable. And this was the first result of the project. I will not explain it because we have a presentation for that, but the idea is not to do new tools, but to make work together existing tools. So we do small changes on existing tools so that we upload all the results, and then we propose methods to optimize energy refurbishment scenarios. Here are the demo sites. We demonstrated the methods, the tools, the technologies, and the business models. I will present one TIOL, and the city of Fribourg is going to present you an early adopter site, which is a whole site, not a single building. And now we have a second adopter site that we are going to use the tools. And here is the new technologies. I will not present everything. There are 4 of them that we are presenting outside, and you are going to discuss with the inventors and the promoters of these technologies. I finished. Yes, here is the program, and I give the stage to Gérard for the next presentation, Energy Transition Strategy for the retrofit.
Hello, everyone. Pleased to be here. Everything okay? Thank you. Perhaps I have my presentation. So, who I am Gérard Greuter, and I'm head of construction and sustainable development in Retraite Populaire. Who is Retraite Populaire? Retraite Populaire is a major pension fund in the canton de Vaud. We own something like 600 buildings. So this is why I'm here, because I know Florensu, and Florensu needed me for the ReCO2st project, in fact. And we have many buildings, so he asked me one day, something like 2 or 3 years ago, don't you have any building I can use to make a demo case? This is the right term, yeah, demo case for the ReCO2st project. I said, of course, I have plenty of them. I refurbish something like 10 to 15 buildings per year. So then he asked me at the end of this project, would you be pleased to be here and explain to guests what you do at Retraite Populaire to manage energy transition strategy. This is a summary of my talk. Action and real estate strategy, because we are talking about buildings, but Retraite Populaire also has a lot of money in the action market. Real estate today's situation, where are we? What we are planning to do the next 20 years. Measure 1, measure 2, measure 3, and then the roadmap to the tomorrow's target, and then a little conclusion. Climatic strategy. As I said before, our assets is made of 20% of real estate and 80% on the action market. So we can have a climatic strategy only on real estate, but that's not sufficient. So we also have to work on action market. So all assets are concerned. And then you can read the figures. I don't know if you can read them well from where you are. For the first table is on the market of action, and the second table is for the real estate. So what we have here is in 4-year times, 25, we're aiming to reduce our energy consumption by 10%, and then in 10 years' time, 35%. And I didn't want to say something else for 2050, because I don't know if we are really going to be able to manage these objectives. We are working on something really simple, heating and hot water. Many issues could be addressed in climatic strategy, but let's do what we know, what we are able to do. So this is a today's situation. The building stock is at 26 kilograms CO2 per square meter. This is the Swiss average. Our building stock is like the Swiss average. And if we look back in the past, we can see that we have something like 4% reduction trend, and only 10% of renewable energy. Measure 1. What can we do for the next 5 years? Very simple. Work with the Pareto effect, work on 100 buildings, and simply fine-tune the heat production. Lower the temperature scale, stop heating in summer. This is the basic, but it tends to be real on buildings. We heat in summer. And we only start this measure last year, so we are only at the beginning. Measure 2, refurbishment. This is the main subject of this evening talk. 10 years, we want for 2030, we aim to maintain our renovation rate at 1.5. This is not sufficient, but for the moment, it's hard to guess to be able to do more, because you know that you have major breaks when you want to make refurbishments. You need to have the resources, you have to have the skills, you have to need the authorization from the local authorities. How do we deal with refurbishment? Which building needs to be refurbished? How do we refurbish these buildings? We use a multi-criterial planification, where you can see perhaps that we look at which kind of energy sources is concerned, the year of the production plant, the age of the building, and also the energy consumption. And then we can identify complete refurbishment, but also partial refurbishment. Partial refurbishment would be the ceiling, the roof, ventilation, and windows, and of course the production plant. Measure 3, total fossil energy exclusion. Try not to put fossil energy in our buildings. And this is going to be the major issue to deal with. What we have to do a planification. Okay, that's easy. But the worst thing to do, the hardest thing to do is the mindset management. Change the ways of people. Change the way the guys who deal with the building approach the building. Because if you say to someone, the manager of the building, you say, okay, we are going to go with wood for heating, he sees only problems, only breaks. So this is what we have to address in retraite populaire, make things change. And this is, I guess, the hardest thing to do. If we take in consideration these 3 measures, we can see that probably we will be able to tend to something like 8 kilos CO2 per square meters. In purple, I don't know if you see right the colors, but in purple you have energy 2050. This would be the Paris 21, the COP21 objective. Something like 4 to 5 kilograms CO2 per square meters. I guess this is not possible, and we are aiming something like 8 to 9 kilograms CO2 per square meters. And you can see that there's a change of the rate of reduction. This is our guess that we will be able to switch to non-fossil production at horizon 2030. My small conclusion, because I guess we are only at the beginning of the change, that this is the beginning of another great adventure. Thank you. Then welcome Florent Sout for his presentation on deep refurbishment, Swiss ReCO2st case study.
Thank you, Gerard. And now I am going to present you how one of the buildings of Retraite Populaire has been refurbished using the ReCO2st using the ReCO2st methods and the ReCO2st technologies and so on. So it is a building in Vevey. It was built in 1922, and it had a serious refurbishment in the 50s, but since the 50s, it didn't have any intervention on it, so it was quite deteriorated. It was one of the buildings that was planned to be refurbished, and the only condition that Gérard put to me, please don't put delays because of your project. And we managed not to put delays, because delays is also money. So this is a building in 2019. We worked, as I told you before, optimize the refurbishment scenario. We used Epicure to calculate the cost, because before an architect starts working on the project, you have to decide if you put heat recovery on extraction, solar collectors, or thermal or photovoltaic solar collector. You have to know how much it costs. So we used the Epicure costs, and we used the least cost method to optimize, and I will tell you more later on. So we test new technologies. So we tested the smart window that you can discover outside later on, the photovoltaics and the aeroplant. And we used two of possible new business models. With a lot of struggle with Romand Energy, we managed to get the first community of self-consumption, and now we are 50% self-consumption of this building, because it was a small building, and they had a limit of 50 apartments, and we had only 17, and we also have thrown away I don't know if you have thrown away, but anyway, we removed the 5 years gas heater to be connected on the renewable urban heating system. You will understand later why. So first thing, we decided between renewables and envelope for a protected building, where is the optimum? So we managed we used this method using Epicure for the cost, eco-solution for the energy savings, and eco-solution is something done by Group E. We did some eco-bilan, les OSI to calculate the... Anyway, Edouard is going to present more in detail. I will just show you the result. Here is the interface of Epicure Web. And we had several questions. Do we insulate, for example, the north facade, which is protected, or not? It was 100,000 francs to do this, and with a lot of problems to discuss with the protection of monuments. So we decided to insulate more the three facades, and to study if we can do it inside insulation, the other one, or just not doing this. It was a very strong decision to take, but we took the decision not to do it. You will understand later. We had to decide in the attic, do we put a heat recovery unit, or do we create two apartments? Creating two apartments in the envelope is also ecological action, because you give more surface for the same envelope. We decided not to do more installations, but more apartments. How much solar collectors, and which solar collectors? We decided to cover everything with photovoltaics. So all these decisions have been done calculating the primary energy, the CO2, and the cost. So this is the result. Plan it right, you get it at time, and you save money. Gérard, before starting a renovation, he knows very well what he wants to do. Here, do it right. You have to follow the works. And also install new technologies. Here is the aeroplant. Here is you will discover all these technologies that we just demonstrated on the building and measure the results. Here we didn't put this thin insulation because of serious problem of condensation. Because if you have a thin insulation, then the condensation point is on the very near to the wall, and we needed so much works to solve these problems that it became not a cheap technology but a very expensive technology. You are going to discover with a pool outside this innovative Danish windows that preheats the air before it enters. So as we had this innovative window, which is the last one, we tested all the other possible air inlets. The demand control ventilation, it was by default, so the extraction was demand control ventilation by ReCO, and we compare the air inlets which are demand control with simple air inlets or with decompression of the joints, and everything was okay except the simple air inlets, which is the business as usual today. And the people, they tell you, simple ventilation, it's problematic. Yes, it's problematic because of these air inlets, not because of the others. So the air quality, you see there, we started with bad air quality and we finished with good air quality for all the situation. The performance monitoring, it was a key point to get zero performance gap. I have a course about how to deal with performance gap. I just show you the graph because this graph is half a day of course. So do it right, get it right. And this project, we were expecting 46 kilowatt hours per square meter for heating, and we got 46. At the end, this building is class A, also for CO2, because I have only 3.8 kilograms per square meter. So, Gerard, this building is going to reduce your mean because we had the chance to have a biomass solar, biomass district heating. So, to reduce cost, you have to learn how to renounce, how to reduce, how to postpone, how to externalize, how to invest, how to optimize, how to preserve, how to simplify, but knowing what you do, calculating cost, calculating energy savings, and knowing where is your target. So this is the conclusion. So now is the time to upscale the ReCO2st methodology, and I hope we may find, for example, a collaboration between the canton, between the town, between the Retraite Populaire, between Group E, because all the district has this possibility to be connected, renovated or not, to the district heating. 30% of these buildings could be renovated, as Gerard has a financial department, and he knows that renovating this building, he's not going to lose money, but the private owners, they don't know that. So we can use the ReCO2st tools so that we can go and make a plan for all this quarter. We will discuss later for if you have some more ideas.
Thank you, Florenzo. Well done. You kept the pace. So please welcome Sarah Bourgarel from the city of Fribourg. She will be talking about how ReCO2st supports the retrofitting strategy of the city.
Thank you. So good afternoon. The city of Fribourg is planning an important retrofit program of its building stock. Today I will present you the strategy that is applied and how it uses tools like ReCO2st and its business model kit to optimize the retrofit potential. So I can, yeah, thank you. So in 2000, Fribourg became Cité de l'Énergie and launched her energy transition. An important step was achieved with the energy master plan that was applied in 2018 with the prohibition of the fossil fuels as heat source on in the city. The transition to renewable energy through the implementation of the district heating network, and the promotion of energy efficiency. So, as a public entity, the city of Fribourg wants to demonstrate its exemplary role in the energy transition. As we know, the building stock is a major source of impact and faces many challenges, as shown here. So we need to plan and optimize the retrofit of our building stock, and we have different aims. So it needs to satisfy the technical and users' requirements. We need to fulfill the political environmental objective, which means to reduce the energy consumption and the environmental impact of the building stock. And the retrofit plan must remain feasible regarding the financial capacities of the city. So I will now present you the planning strategy. The first phase was the technical evaluation of the building stock. So for each building, we evaluate all the elements and define the current state, the ideal retrofit year, and the cost related, and also the energy and environmental impact of the retrofit. Then we define our retrofit plan in iterative steps. So we had the technical requirement, then we adapted it to the user's need, and we finally confronted to the financial constraints. We defined the flexibility and the necessity level of all the plans, and this will be used then to optimize the final plan. So this is what arrive when we have the technical requirement and users' needs. This cannot be applied like this because we need to consider the workforce resources and the financial capacities. So we have a first challenge. We need to lower the variability of the work and investment loads. By the way, this is the investment curve. So we need to flatten this curve. How can this be done? So we will use some tools that are developed from the business model kits of ReCO2st. So we will first try to externalize the investment and the project operation. This can be done using ESCOs, like energy performance contract, or EPC. We can use different model with different, so varying share of the investment and workload externalization. Florian will go deeper into details about that. And a second option is to use alternative financial methods. We can also then optimize the temporal flexibility of each project to have a flattered curve. However, we have to consider that if we have to postpone a project, it will have a negative financial impact because the building will still be furthermore degraded. I don't know how to say. So also a tool from that we can use from the first data set is to identify all the best case for the ESCOs and EPC. So we can use the energy impact from the retrofit action and try to see which retrofit action will be more adapted to do an EPC. The second challenge would be if we have too much investment and we cannot support it. So we need to flatten, so to lower the curve. For this, we can also use some tools from the business model kit. We would also use some CPE, but here in a slightly different way, maybe with more external financiation, and that only use the operation cost. For us, that's a different budget. And so if we externalize the workload, we also have less work for our team. Ideally, we want to invest ourselves, but this would be a way to achieve more with the same means. And the last option would be to target the most efficient project. So not to do the last one, but this would be the last option. So if we have a look at the whole procedure, we first do the scan on our buildings. We identify the technical and users' requirements. We have this preliminary investment cost curve. Then we target the project priorities and ideal CPE, and we perform the financial and project management optimization. Then we implement the ESCOs and alternative financial method. And finally, we operate the building stock and optimize it through monitoring and furthermore ESCOs. Lastly, I want to open the topic to replicate this strategy at a territorial scale. So we could use our good practice to motivate the owners and to enhance the energy transition and retrofit years. So the city could be a platform to promote the data collection and analysis, to identify the suitable EPCs and alternative financing, and to advise on experts and procedures, and to subsidize some retrofit actions. So here we would have a look at the whole territory. We could help to collect some data and also subsidize some analysis to the owners. Then we can, when we target some buildings, we could also be a counselor to the owners to guide which CPE and with the business model kit, which solution are the best suited to the owners. And we could also propose some alternative financing funds, and also have help the owners with some retrofit actions like we do. So we already implemented some subsidies programs last year. We will have a new one. So some of those actions are already happening in Fribourg, and we want to go further with this method. So thank you for your attention, and I hope this was interesting. Here are my data. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Amazing. Good luck. Edouard Philippe is at the chair. He's going to talk to you about EPQR web, don't know this one, and the Renovation Lab platform.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Edouard Philippe. I work at EPQR Renovation. I'll give you a quick overview of what EPQR Web and Renova Lab are, the way they interact together, and also with foreign tools. So I'll start with EPQR Web, which derives from the method EPQR, which you might be familiar with or not. The method EPQR brings together the state of degradation of a building, a few building metrics that I will describe later on, and a big cost database. And altogether, these three elements will allow the user to be able to give within a precise margin the cost of refurbishment of any given building. So what it provides as goals is a complete, fast and structured audit reliable refurbishment budget through explicit and verifiable costs. And it provides an assessment of several refurbishment and compliance options, we commonly call scenarios of actions. Now, just for a brief history of the method, 30 years ago, Epicure wasn't called Epicure, it was called MERIP. It was a method that would hold onto this little notebook, not as big as this one, but it will hold onto a pocket. And every expert would go on site with this notebook and tick down boxes, state of degradation of the building being architectural, technical elements, and then back at the office, report this information into an Excel sheet that would do the job for you to calculate the budget. That was 30 years ago. And then 10 years later, the method was computerized, was brought towards a software, Epicure Plus, which was basically doing the same job except on a computer with extra features such as photos, automatic text, bringing you a didactic way to understand fully the building, and most importantly, a way to prioritize your interventions, which was a great importance for owners to understand how to planify, how to plan the actions through time. Then the next step, this page is still in development, is being tested right now, is to bring this desktop tool towards internet. So this new tool, still Epicure, is going to the web, hosted now onto a web platform that we'll talk about later. And basically it does the same thing, but the main advantage is that you will be able, as an expert, to bring this tool with you in a visit and tick these boxes and pre-chew the work that you're supposed to do at the office. And also for owners, it's a great tool because you will gather in one place your real estates, compare your buildings with one another, and be able with this tool to communicate with other platforms, other tools that I will describe later on. Now, the sequence of actions that are necessary to do the visit, to do the report, will still remain the same. There is the visit that is absolutely necessary because only through a visit can you fully understand the building, can you grasp sensible data from the users, such as sanitary dysfunctions, summer discomfort, and so on and so forth. And only through the visit can you identify building physics problems, such as mold development, and so on and so forth. And then the next step is to modelize the building. I was talking about these building metrics. With this new method, we'll be able, within a very few number of metrics, mainly from the cadastral plan information, to modelize the building. And then from these few metrics, such as land area, built surface, facade surface, the method will then deduce dozens of other elements, such as linear of pipes, window frame surfaces, number of inside doors, and so on and so forth, to eventually calculate the cost of every element. Then the main scope, obviously, of this method is the diagnosis, the actual diagnosis, which will be still the same onto this cloud, ticking into boxes with each element and create different scenarios, being either maintain the building the way it is to bring it back to its original state, or push forward the scenario towards a better insulation, towards Minergie or HPE, and so on and so forth. And then instantly, obviously, the method, which is the goal of it, will calculate the cost of all of these scenarios and give outputs, different outputs, such as PDF formats or Excel sheets, to eventually draw up a quote, a budget, detail or not detail, that you will be able to use as a base for early stage projects. Now, to make sure that this method was reliable, we made a study to know whether the method was precise in between the costs and the reality. So we tested it onto a sample of many buildings from different types, different affectations, and we realized that whatever the building was, whatever the type was, we were always in between a margin of 15%. So that gives this tool a very sharp way of starting off a budget, starting off a project, mainly for the early stages of the project, and it's a very sharp weapon, especially since after that we started to consolidate the cost database to group together more elements and to standardize them, and also to manage to remove even more building metrics, so that at the end of the day we were able, and this is recent, to modelize buildings faster. We've been experiencing this onto the latest mandates that we had, and we can now say that we are able to do one building in one day. So this is great, because now we know that we can scan real estate faster, and with also the idea behind it for owners to have this cloud of real estate, of stock of buildings, to further implement with other apps, other apps that will do the job into a platform towards the energy transition. And this platform, this website that's hosting Epicure Web, is called RenovaLab. Now, RenovaLab will contain all the resources for experts or anybody interested in this domain to have access to the best way to refurbish their buildings. So they will have a toolbox in which Epicure Web and other apps will be, different services and learning resources. So if I had to summarize it in one sentence, I would say that it's a cloud environment with the best tools, skills, learning resources to optimize an energy transition refurbishment scenario and evaluate a credible financial budget to realize it. Now, coming back to this toolbox, Epicure Web is part of it. Florenzo showed you before this slide too. So the idea with this toolbox is that it would have a cloud of app containing Epicure Web, of course, and then other apps such as EcoSolution from Group A, which will give accurate actions towards energy savings, and EcoBilan that will give you a carbon footprint evaluation of any given actions. But also these are internal apps, but also external apps such as Epicure Desktop that we still use at the moment, but also Les OSAI that will give a building energy assessment, or Investimo that will allow to have this real estate planification tool. Then all these apps, they all have their own language, they all have their own way of working, and they cannot work together without having a platform. And this platform is the project that a lot of people here have been working on, ReCO2st, will aggregate the data together and will translate it into one language from which you will be able to pick actions, to put them together within different criteria such as the budget, the carbon footprint, the energy savings, and eventually come up with the best series of actions that will fit the one building that's being audited. Now, this platform, this RenovaLab platform, as Florenzo was saying before, is not a closed tool. It's open, and the idea is that we don't want to work with things that don't exist. We rather want to work with all the great tools that are out there, all these great ideas that we were talking about just before, and to come up with the best, faster, and most efficient, cost-efficient energy transition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edouard. Great methods, marvelous English. I'm jealous. So let us welcome Florian Butcher. Innovation Business Model Kit for rapid energy transition.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. And thank you. So I will present you the business model kit. And yeah, so basically, I'm trying to help the poor lady here that is basically looking like I was when I was refurbishing my house. And where is the pointer? Well, and you can see we have a lot of professionals here in the renovation business, but still you have a lot of questions when it goes to refurbishing, renovate buildings, old buildings. If you have building stocks, where are you starting? What are the targets you're what are the troubles with the tenants and so forth. So you have a lot of questions to answer. And what we want to do is to help a little bit. You have some people like Valerie, which is probably a bit like Sarah. She is working for a municipality. You have Lars, he's from a pension fund, and you have Lucia, she's more like me. She has one, perhaps two houses, and she's probably living in this house. And you might have a view of this problematic, whatever your competencies, which is more autistic, you are really focused on risk, or whatever you have financing troubles. So you might be willing, because you know quite well the other topic, to look at that more particularly. That's your issue, your current issue. And we want to help those guys to go through the solution with those issues. And does it work? Yeah. And you have very, don't try to read everything here, it's just to show you have people that knows quite well how you should renovate a building and all the commissioning phases, how it will be then operated, the maintenance stuff, all the guarantees things. So you have perhaps a very holistic view of the renovation, but with clear project phases, but still some issues to consider within this process. So lastly, if you have, you probably maybe just started like that, at least in Switzerland, 70% of the dwellings are in hand of private owners. So the three types of personas I've shown you before. And those guys have very different interests, not only refurbishing buildings. And basically what they do, even if we only look at professional activities, they are waiting, it's really painful. They are trying to weight refurbishment projects with other projects that have also value for them in some way. So what we also want to do is give them the tools to really try to get to a business case that is able to compete and probably win against other projects that they have, and might perhaps decide if they don't have this good business case for the building renovation. So in few words, we want to decide them to launch a renovation with the proper information. So what we do, what is the business model kit? Basically, it is a couple of it starts, let's say, first with a guideline. This is the guideline. This is a document. It will be soon this year on the ReCO2st website. You will be able to basically click on the issue I've somehow showed before, and dig into those issues and find some help, some guidance to solve that. So you will be. Then you will get a so-called financing module. This is an API, a web application with an API that I will show you what it does, but it basically helps you to integrate in your financing option the EPC, energy performance contracting options. I will show you that. And you have also a tool that will come online soon as well on the ReCO2st website, which will help you to manage your projects. You have several ways of managing a renovation project. Depending, we had a very interesting illustration with Sarah before. Depending on your workforce, the workload that you, with the waves that of refurbishment that you might have, you have to manage that. And you have some different ways of managing this workload, investment load, and we try to give you those two tools here to manage that. So, well, we try basically to give the information, whatever your view is, phases point of view or issues point of views. Just few words. I won't discuss too much. That's basically illustrating how you can, for an energy saving measures, how you can finance. You have the consumption before, after the measure. And the economy here can pay the investment or partly pay the investment. Basically, it's just to illustrate that these type of issues are explained in the business model kit. If you're not familiar with this, you will be able to click on that and get the information about that. And also on energy performance guarantee, which is basically how you will you make sure that your contractor and the concept he's selling to you to say you're going to save 50%. He's then really getting to this 50%. And you don't get a huge energy gap, for example. So also those issues, you will get also information on how the balancing of energy saving and renewable energy production on site that was mentioned by Florenzo, that's also something, and the tools that are behind and also developed within ReCO2st that were just illustrated how you can implement and use that in your daily business as a project manager for renovation. And of course, how you might look at the technical economic optimum for you, depending on how much you can invest and the different ways of financing that you get access to. Few words about the business model kit. So you might have, we had the illustration from Sarah, you have investment issues. It's too high, or you have peaks. So the moment you find, the first idea is to identify with these lamps, traffic lamps, the green cases where the energy saving are so good that they can pay for the investment after a given payback. So what we developed here is a web module that you can apply to your to your energy saving calculation that you did with, for example, with the RAD platform that was the ReCO2st platform that was illustrated before. So you get a list of measures that is possible on your building or your building stock with investment, energy saving. And then you say, well, I have an ESCO, so an energy services company that is willing to pay for some of this or to provide an energy contracting, as I illustrated before. And they will work with some, if the project is enough cost efficient, so enough interesting for them, so like an area of 5%. And that will be okay to pay more in a way for this project if they finance it, but I still want to have a 1.5 RR factor. So without going into too much detail, you say, okay, I'm ready to go with a contract up to, in that case, 7 years. And perhaps I can push it to the limit of 10 years. Ideally, we will share the energy savings during the contract duration, 50-50, but I'm also happy in some cases to give all the energy saving to the contractor for a given time if it helps me to get to this 1.5 target of energy, of financial cost efficiency. So you basically give these parameters from the contractor point of view and the client point of view. And then you let's run the API, and that's a bit like Tinder. You can find some match where you see that some measures or measure packages are matching between your needs as an owner and the readiness of the contractor to pay with an energy performance contracting model for that. So that's just a way of sorting the measure that could enter a given financing scheme. And then that was illustrated by Sarah, that could then solve some of these bandwidth of investment capacity challenges. Then you have, in few words, you have also contractual and project management assistant that will be online on the website, where you could also move those levers here and say, I'm willing to, well, I have a very, Sarah was also illustrating the resources problem. If you have a team of very good guys, but you don't have 5 of them and you have hundreds of buildings to refurbish. So you probably want to work with some contractors that are also doing the design for you, the project management for the implementation, and then you have to give them also the maintenance. And then you have some possibilities, some ESCO contract models, where you, for example, will try to push all the risk to the ESCO, or and then you will just make at the very beginning a bidding to select the ESCO, and then they will take care of all the phases of the refurbishment, even of the building stock as a whole or part of it. And you want to ask for them to get financing EPC options, for example. So you can push these levers. You say I have little competencies. I want to give a lot of risk to the contractor, and I need a financing option. And this contract selector will say, okay, just work with the ESCO company. It will cost you a bit more, but you don't have troubles, even if you are not very skilled. Or you have a very strong and large team, and here you want to take care of all the phases, the design, the implementation, the maintenance with your guys, or at each step you do classical biddings phases for each steps. So that's the classical route, or a conventional approach to refurbish. So you have done intermediate cases that are described in the business model kit. And that's just screenshots of the website and web tool that is going to give you the possibility, according to your situation, to get a recommendation on which route for each type of project you may follow. So that's the summary. So we had the illustration from Sarah, how you screen your building stocks if you are the city of Fribourg, or we did also that with another early adopter site in the project, which is a pension fund, also in the canton of Fribourg, and how we scan the building stock to identify hotspots, so the most energy intensive buildings, basically. Then we use the ReCO2st platform to identify the investment of the work, energy savings. Then we look at the financing option with the financing module of the business model kit. We try to flatten this curve, and then we get guidance to select the proper way of managing the project. And that's everything is summarized and into the so-called the document of the business model kit, and then that will be mirrored in the website. So that's for me, and I think, yeah.
Thank you, Florian. A colorful but still crystal clear presentation. Thank you. So I will open the round table. Perhaps we can start with a few questions. Does anybody has a question to one of the speakers?
Come here so you remember who.
I'm going to give you the micro because you have one there.
Yes, thank you very much. Pierre Müller of University of Geneva. I have two questions regarding this RenoLab. So one is general. So you're saying that it is still in development. So what is your, if I understood it right, and when would that be available? And then I have a more specific questions regarding to costs. One of the issues in retrofit is actually the split of the cost between what is really relative to energy performance and what is relative to actually maintenance of the building or to other added value. Yes, you can retrofit and have added value which is not necessarily related to energy. And is this, do you take these kind of things into account?
it's a very important thing that when you develop software, you don't give dates when you deliver it. We are now, yeah. No, it's end of the year next year. Now we are on the testing phase of the Epicure Web. So we are testing the interface, we are testing the cost, we already tested it and we implemented the desktop, but it will be a little bit disappointing for the users to make them work on a desktop version, and then you have the web that is going to communicate with a eco solution, for example, who is calculating energy savings, or with LESOSI. But for now, for example, if you are doing a LESOSI, you can export the dimensions, so you don't need to calculate them again, and then you upload it to the Epicure Web. Now we're working with, because now we are in the web era. It's not sufficient to have Julien and developing software. You need to hire somebody who is called user's experience, because you have to have the emotional will to work with the interface. So we are working on this phases so that we have a up-to-date environment where many tools, and if people have here tools, either like the ones that Florian presented, which is not an energy calculation or cost calculation. We are mainly targeting energy calculations and cost calculations so that we upload the results on the Renewable Lab. And we didn't tell a lot about this least cost method. It's a very simple thing, but it is very difficult to have the results. You just have all the possible actions, and you can rank them according to indicators, either single indicators like the cost or the energy saving, or combined ones that you get them because you uploaded all from all the tools. For example, the cost of the saved kilowatt hour or the cost of the saved CO2 emissions, and you play with these to rank the possible actions, and then you, like your pizza, you select a list of actions that as a user makes sense because you're architect or you're energy engineer, and then you see if the scenario is answering to 2000 society targets, for example. So this is Renewable Lab. This, we hope to have it for the courses of November. Maybe we'll have on the courses of November only the web phase, but we are on the last. And then now for this separation, which are energy actions, you need the opinion of the users. If I ask you, for example, the blinds, is it an energy action when you insulate your facade? What your answer? A software cannot answer for that. If the cost of the blinds that you need to change because you add insulation, you consider it as a cost of insulation, or it's an additional cost. So we give the possibility to the user to choose which actions are related to the energy, to one energy saving.
So you can choose actually.
Yes. You can take the cost from Epicure or not. Okay.
Perhaps another question?
Hello, my name is Robin Franier. I had a question about the demonstration project that you presented in Vevey. Is there somewhere we can access the figures, or where we can see a bit the details of the calculation? Because there was just presented a few solutions that you adopted, but not the real thinking behind it, and I would be really curious about it.
In the deliverables, in the deliverables of the project, which are public, you find everything, all the indicators like the CO2 before, the CO2 emissions after, how it was calculated, all the Epicure actions. So you can, if you are, but maybe if you are interested, we can discuss and we can provide you. And another thing, this project is also followed, and we have for 2 years now the hourly energy consumption for heating and hot water, the CO2 concentration in the apartments that I have shown you, and the temperature and the humidity in the apartments. And we are working in the data mining science to see if it is, you can guess a lot of things, for example, occupation, or when you are simulating the building, or if there are any dysfunctionalities, is there any relation between over consumption and the internal temperature, for example. So you can access also some of this kind of data. Not everything is public because we have the tenant privacy, but there are also possibilities to exploit these hourly results.
Yeah, I'm mainly interested about the way you calculate like the cost and how you estimate them.
Yeah.
Let me have one question. As I understand, we know how to detect which buildings should be refurbished. We know how to plan them. We know how to evaluate environmental impacts of refurbishment. We know how to finance them, but this is very technical. But how do we get authorization, fast authorization? Because we have energy issues, but we have, when you refurbish a building, you have fire safety issues, falling issues, and tenants issues, rent rise issues, and many more that you have to put into a package and ask to the authorities, can I do this refurbishment? Nowadays, in Lausanne, it takes 1 year to have an authorization of refurbishment. So how can will we be able to do what we are planning to do?
Maybe somebody from the audience could answer to that. I can tell you what happens in Geneva, and it seems to work. If the Office of Energy has a contract with Retraite Populaire and you engage to reduce 3% per year, then they don't make a lot of problems in the individual buildings if you manage your global action. So this is one way they found to accelerate but there are still
the other issues.
Yeah, yeah.
I also saw few papers on one-stop shops that are trying to solve these kind of issues, so that you get a single contact point to solve all these. But that was what I saw, not in this project, was more in probably Sweden, in Denmark, in north of Europe. There are some examples of that, which are also, by the way, trying to put together contractors with the right competencies so that they provide as well the good technical solutions, besides these issues with authorities.
My guess is that local authorities should embrace the problem and be a driver and not wait on the owners to do the job. They should really go and get the owners and say, okay, we can help you manage your refurbishment, open doors, and make it more simple for you. And this should be integrated in what you're trying to do, and I hope that you're going to be able to plan and to take off all these breaks so you have a good renovation rate, because I'm sure that it is not possible to go further than 1.5% of renovation rate. I'm sure of it. For the moment, it's not possible to do more.
For your company, because yesterday I was in the equivalent of Geneva, CPG. They are 4% since 2 years. So they are renovating 4%, and they did all the financial calculations, and they are going, really, they prefer to invest on their buildings rather than on external options. But you told me 2 years ago something which could be, because one is to wait the authorities to change their attitude, and I don't think they are going to change it. And the thing is to manage to, you told me, and I registered it and applied it with another caisse de pension. You told me if I start planning, for example, with Epicure, more than the projects that I may renovate, if I find a problem with the tenants, then this project goes back and the other one comes. So if we have a good planning projects, like you, for example, you presented a very good strategy, we may discuss with the authorities with a pre-evaluation of a refurbishment scenario, for example, and at least the Department of Energy gives a preliminary go on, and in any way you have more than if this one is stacking on fire protection, for example, the other one, and we are doing doing exactly the same thing, because aside Epicure, we have an Investimo planification now, and we are planning double the buildings that they are going to be realized. So we have this possibility to interchange.
So I understand I should go working in Geneva.
No, you plan twice the buildings that you,
Geneva
at
the
least
best.
you go up to a realization scenario is not so expensive, because you don't engage an architect, at least at that stage you have more than one buildings waiting.
We will try to do best. We will really try. Another question in the audience? Yes.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for today's presentation, which I find very interesting. I had three questions for Mr. Florenzu. The first one is regarding the Epicure database scope. Which kind of buildings, and which is the geographical scope of this database? Is this only in Switzerland, where we can use its information or not? This is the first one. The second one is, I'm just curious about this Danish window that you use.
In front of you.
In Vevey. We have excellent triple glass windows providers here in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And the question is, why did you find interesting to use this window in this special case? And the last question for you is, do you expect new trends in the application of heat pumps than the traditional one that we see nowadays? Thank you very much.
The last one I will leave you, so I don't speak only me. For the Epicure, you can do in the current web, you can do only residential buildings, but we are, Edouard is working to do all kind of buildings in a second stage. And in the ReCO2st project, one of the jobs that we have done is to make the database in such a way so in Switzerland, for every region, you have a statistical index that adapts the cost to the region. And we have done this job for all Europe, and we tested for the countries that are participating with the Danish cost, with the Spanish cost, and with the British cost on the case study. So it seems to work. And now I am working with the Polish guys, which was not in the project, to test. It's an architectural office that is testing if the European database of the web version, it works with the Polish different. They are 28% of the Swiss costs. We'll see. So this one question. The second one is about the windows. Here we have the company André SA, which is one of the very good companies in Switzerland that are producing windows, because many companies, they say they are Swiss windows, but they are producing in Estonia, in Slovakia, or very far away. with different ways of culture and so on. The objective of Mr. Horn, who is here and is going to present his windows later, how it works, we found the way very interesting, because this window, it's a triple glazing. You have a standard double glazing and an openable glazing, and you have the air going in the bottom of the window. It passes through the triple glazing, and there is a trigger that decides if the air is wished to be hot. It allows it to enter in the building. If it is too hot because it is summer, it rejects this and it cools the window, and you have a direct inlet of the air. And the objective is to have the Swiss windows working with the Danish mechanism, and this is why the two people are here. And Gerard, we hope that Gerard expressed the wish to go on with the building, because the testing was to see if the tenants are okay, if the building physics are okay, and I can assure you they're really okay. The energy performance was tested in Aalborg University. I believe them, because it's a very good university. So the next stage is to see if these two partners can propose to Gerard a Swiss window with a Danish. So we are on this. So for the heat pumps.
Well, yeah. Not sure I'm the specialist for that, but my colleagues would be better. But, yeah. But to my knowledge, I don't know what you are exactly asking for. Of course, you have heat pumps, air with geothermal wells and so on. And I know that you can use it for heat recovery, also to preheat, for hot water. Well, perhaps some applications I know that we are doing is like district heating. And instead of pushing hot water in the district heating, you have cold water, these energy loops, and then you would take the heat and upgrade it with the heat pumps at each buildings. I told you everything I can tell you from my side, but again, I'm not a specialist.
Just a precision.
Yeah. Great.
About the type of affectations for the buildings. So the web tool can only do buildings for the moment, housing buildings, but the desktop tool can do basically any building. So what we're working on right now is to consolidate this database, the multi-affectation way, so to say, to afterwards put it onto the website too. So it's a work in progress.
Thank you.
But it does exist.
For the heat pumps, in Retraite Populaire, we're trying to experiment what we call a bivalent system, when we have a heat pump, water-air heat pump, and gas production. I don't know if it works. Engineers says it works, so we have a couple of projects, and we will try to make it possible, but you have many issues on this type of system. You have the sounds problem. Heat pump makes more sound than gas production. So when you are not able to put urban districts heating, when you cannot put wood, when you don't want to refurbish completely your building, then perhaps heat pumps with gas is a good solution.
Well, I can give you some more information. I didn't want to monopolize but for the heat pumps, the Swiss cantons, one after the other, they prohibit fossil fuels. Now when you change your fossil heat production. Glaris is already passed, Jura is already passed, and now Geneva is on the point. It was planned to be announced in July that you don't have the right anymore to renew a fossil heat production. I don't know if they already did it, but they are in discussion so that it will come. So we will be obliged to use either the district heating, either biomass, which is prohibited, almost prohibited in Geneva, or heat pumps. And now we are working with the Energy Service of Geneva. We took 20 buildings of another pension fund in Geneva. We are doing a CECB, energy analysis, and we are testing if it is possible, it's random, a random sample, in how many buildings we can install a heat pump. There is a very good job done by the city of Zurich, and it was translated in French, telling what are the obstacles. You have a civil engineering obstacle, you have noise obstacle, you have the intensity of needed current, with really very good job, and we are going to use this in every building to decide if it is possible, and if it is possible, how much it costs. So here is about heat pumps. The people who are in the heat pumps, they believe that in 5 years will be as sharp enough as we are on heat pumps for villas, because we have a problem with heat pumps for big buildings. For one Egide, for 20 apartments, you have 1 ton of thing to bring to the roof. So it's not easy.
Maybe a short addition on the heat pumps is perhaps now heat pumps are not seen as just heating system. Maybe what is also coming is that you have PV panels on the roof. You have a heating system with heat pumps. You have also electrical mobility, so you have charging stations. And you will look at that as a whole system with management that tries to maximize the use of solar energy into the heating system for hot water or even building heating, and manage also the load between the charging of the cars, the heating system, so that you really maximize the local use, direct use of solar energy, which is very important to lower the CO2 emissions. So just maybe heat pumps is now also evolving as a component of the whole energy system.
We have 40 people who are not in this. I speak to the camera. Is there anybody from the 40 people who wants to ask something? Who is following the? Somebody is following the connected people, if there are questions? No? There was no. Okay, I just encourage. Poul, maybe you want to add something?
Thank you. I just want to explain you what we are doing in Denmark with our ventilation window and the heat pump and heating of the houses, producing domestic hot water and so on. If you build a new house with well insulated, it means in Denmark it's almost passive house to be allowed to build. Then the heat pump, the extraction heat pump that are placed in the house, looking like a high fridge and not higher sound than a fridge, then the heat pump will be able to produce the energy that you need in the house and produce the domestic hot water if you use our ventilation windows. Because then you get the gain from the windows, from the solar energy, and our windows takes back the heat loss from the inside of the windows, takes it into the house again, and that's the reason the whole system works without any other heat than the heat pump that are using just the energy in the house.
I have an online question, so for Sarah from the city of Fribourg. There is at present a great constraint in terms of renovation of the building because the historical monuments emit structural constraint concerning creating thermal bridges by taking example of a slab. It is necessary to privilege the heritage of the energy, so question mark. How did you work for had the best results with constraints for historical buildings? Yes, we consider the historical constraints. If you know Fribourg, there is a beautiful historical center where we have many buildings, and we have to consider this. So we also included some stronger financial investment for the buildings that were protected. And then we also had some cases, so we have to go to the canton and discuss between the different services, the protection of the monuments and the energy saving, and sometimes we have to find the best solution. But sometimes we cannot implement the best energy solution. We have to find the equilibrium between the two problems.
There's also a tool that's been implemented a few years back between Istia and Epicure Renovation. It's called Petra. Petra is a very practical way of rethinking the way the building has been noted in terms of patrimony. So it's got all the elements from the context to the inside doors. And it's a great help, a great, say, a mean tool between the authorities and the architects and the leaders to decide whether we should keep an element or we could go over it with criteria such as energy consumption or more efficient ways of interacting with the building.
And as you are speaking about, the person who, about historical buildings, Pool, he brought here, because we had some people from the historical buildings of Geneva who were interested, he brought two windows, one which is a new window, this Danish system, and one is how to refurbish a historical window, so you can see how they found to add a new pane without touching the existing one, and preheating. And also there are some possibilities that you can discuss with Maxime from demand control ventilation. In many historic buildings, you have extraction, natural ventilation extraction, that you can, we already did, and it works very good, where you bring air not from the basement, but from the windows, and then you have the demand control extraction. You remove the standard grids, and you move, and you have the stack effect of the building. We did two in Estia. We did two buildings. One with nothing else, just extraction. There you have a small problem because if there is a wind. Some special wind conditions, you have air coming back, but as the people were used to since the 19th century, they don't complain. And there are, I recall, they are proposing some booster of the stack effect, and people don't know very simple things that exist for refurbishment of. Now we are discussing last week with Jean-Louis, who is here. They oblige him to put so big ducts in a historic building in the circulations, so he can install a heat recovery. And people are thinking of historic buildings, and they think about the facade, and they break everything in the use of the building. So there is also on the ventilation side some aspects on historic, but there are also solutions. This project there that I showed you before, it is Node 3. It is still Node 3. It is nicer. We didn't touch a single historic aspect that was. It took 100% approval, and it was 100% approval from energy service, because even if we don't insulate one facade, the energy law allows you some margin. It is exactly on the limit of the needs, and you have to think about it. And what Edward said before, it's a way of thinking energy and and historic protection together. Sometimes you don't manage, but very often you manage to get everything. Any other question?
Yes, thank you. Lionel Rinquet from API in Geneva. I've heard that in your presentation, Mr. Philippe, you said that it was going to be open and free. Does it mean that Epicure, Investimo, Lesosci are becoming free tools?
No. The idea is that the result of ReCO2st, which is the least cost method, which is this renewable kernel, where we cannot oblige Lesosci to become free. We cannot oblige Epicure to become free. They have to leave. Who is Epicure? But you are free to upload your own cost or your own method calculating cost, and the kernel, which is this least cost method, where you compare the actions and you see the best scenario. This is free, and we hope that with this we can federate other tools, free or not free. For example, the tools of SEJ are free. You can use these tools. You can use CB, you can use Lesosci, you can use EcoSolution. So we leave free the participants, and if in the university you develop free tools for calculating energy savings, you can become associated. We are discussing with the École d'ingénieurs in Tessin, and they want to participate with their tools. And they want to work with open source tools. We are free. It's a federating platform, and the policy of every tool, it's the owner of the tool to decide what he sells, what it proposes for free, and so on.
Another question?
I
Yes.
think it's time.
We have the. I think we're at 6 o'clock. We should finish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Before we go, I would like to show you see the people, Paul, Maxime, Joshua, and Natalie, who are exposing, and Heinz, who are exposing. You can stand up so people see you. You can go when you go to the apéro. They are there to show the models, the demonstration models, and you can discuss about their technologies. Thank you very much, and thank you to the people who are following on the web.